Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about combatives and unconventional warfare. People have this thought in their head that if they have a gun, they're good to go, and that's all they need is a gun, and it'll handle any situation. But there's a lot of situations where you can't use a gun, many, and it should not be your first line of defense unless you are faced with a gun or a knife or multiple attackers. The first thing you should know is hand-to-hand combatives and how to take care of yourself. And I don't mean Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts or MMA. Everyone that thinks that those are the be-all, end-all are sorely mistaken, and they live in a fantasy world. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hateful comments for it, but it's the truth. Combatives is a completely different thing from BJJ or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA, mixed martial arts. Those are sports. They're meant for sport. When you're attacked on the street, when you're confronted by somebody, the last place you want to be is on the ground. You want to be standing. You want to get the hell out of Dodge as quickly as possible. You want to neutralize that threat and get away, period. If you have a wife, girlfriend, family, children, whatever with you, you do not want to be on the ground and risk the chance of somebody else being with that thug that approached you, and your children, wife, girlfriend, parents, whatever, then being put in harm's way. So taking someone to the ground is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I've been in 376 confrontations in my life. One time I went to the ground, and that was of my own fault. I stepped off the edge of a concrete sidewalk. My ankle twisted, and I went onto the grass. The guy jumped on top of me. I dispatched him quickly, got him off me, and I got back up on my feet because he had other people with him. Now, luckily, they were drunk, and they didn't want to join in. But you never know. The situation can turn bad at any point. So being on the ground is the stupidest place to be. Now with combatives, you should be thinking unconventional warfare. Now, I'm not talking about being a guerrilla, a mercenary or anything like that. I'm talking about unconventional methods to neutralize the threat. If you don't have the strength, and not everyone does, if you don't have all the knowledge, there are some basic things that you can do, basic things that you can have on you that you can neutralize a threat with. A pen, perfect example. I carry two of them. They're metal. I can use them for stabbing, gouging, all kinds of things. It's a support in my hand, so if I punch somebody, it adds a little extra support to the punch. There's all kinds of things you can do with a pen, and they're innocuous. You're not going to get in trouble with them. You can carry them on buses, planes, trains, wherever, and you're not going to be in trouble for carrying a pen. But don't carry a plastic one. Carry one that's metal. I carry the Zebra pens. They're all metal, all stainless steel. They fit nicely in the hand. I have two protrusions, stabbing. This one, even though it pushes in, if you strike hard enough and you follow through, it will do some damage. So you want to make sure you have a pen. And the tactical pens, don't waste your money because they look tactical. They don't allow them on airplanes for the most part. This is not a tactical pen. It's just an everyday writing instrument. It's just that it happens to be stainless steel, so it's very strong, very sturdy, and will do the job. And when I'm done, I can sign my autograph. Just kidding. The next thing that I carry with me, and I've carried for years, is what's called a Yawara. Now, people say, oh, it's a Kubotan. No, a Yawara was around long before Tac invented the Kubotan, which he didn't really invent. He took the Yawara and he reconfigured it to carry it as a keychain. Those things are a lot of places outlawed. A stick like this is not outlawed. It's a piece of wood, but it's a Yawara. It's Japanese in nature. You can see how it protrudes from both sides of my hand. I can have it this way, so I can do locks. I can do whatever. I can take someone's wrist, take them down. I can jab them in the throat, the eye, the neck, the back of the head, the legs, all the soft tissue areas. I have a stick. And if I have to punch, that is a great support in your fist for when you strike. It makes solid contact. If you don't have a good strong fist, putting something like this in your hand can make all the difference. You can see it's cut. I made these. This is not just a round stick like a lot of them. I made it this way on purpose so that it fits within the folds of the hand much nicer. So it has tapered sides, flat top, flat bottom. and a couple of tapers here. So when I wrap my hand around it, it's nice and solid in my hand. It doesn't hurt, and it stays where I need it to be. This one is made out of oak, so it's a very strong, dense wood, and it works really well. A couple others that I have are made from steel bar. This one here is roughly about, I think it's 3/4 of an inch diameter, I believe. About the same length, about 7 inches. Now, steel bar isn't something that they're most likely going to let you take on a plane. So this isn't something that you'd want to carry if you're going to fly. The wooden Uwara, it's a simple stick. Now, what you can do with these is you could drill a hole and insert like a Bic end in here and say, hey, it's my pen. It's a custom-made pen that I made. Can't say anything about a pen. So you can alter these to make them customizable if anybody says anything. But carrying a stick, it's a stick. I like carrying my stick. I twirl it. You know, it's like a fidget spinner for me is what I tell them. Although I don't fly anymore. Here's one that's a little bit same length, a little bit smaller diameter. This one's about a 1/2 inch diameter. They're both steel, which is very strong, obviously, and very good for striking and other things when you're trying to protect yourself. So a Uwara is something that you definitely should consider carrying at all times. The wooden one is the one that I would recommend highly because it's very innocuous, not going to get you in a lot of trouble. Now, when I was training in Japan, one of the things that I did over there is we forged weapons. We learned how to forge weapons in the system that I was studying. And one of the first things that I forged was this right here. Now, this is a play off of a corn husker. It's a tool that I have. It's just a metal tool with a leather strap you run your fingers through, and it's for husking corn. And I kind of played off that concept because I've had my corn husker for, wow, over 40 years, over 50 years. And so I played with this and I sharpened the end. Now this is something that protrudes out of the front so you can strike this way. It's got a knuckle duster, so to speak, right here, so you can hit this way. And obviously you can jab or rip in this motion here. Again, it fits in the hand, so if you do want to punch or have to punch, you have this to protect your knuckle. It doesn't push against my knuckle. There's space there. I made it bigger so that it wouldn't push on the knuckle. It would protrude, and it would be nice and solid for when I'm punching. It would make contact first and not hurt my finger at all. So this is an idea that you could make. It's one of the first things I ever forged. And I've had it for, numerous years, since the 1980s. I've had this. So this goes with me everywhere. And again, it's a piece of metal, yeah, and it's sharpened. What do I use it for? Well, because I do carpentry, I use it to scribe, I tell them. It's a way to scribe things. If I have to scribe overhead, I have the handhold so I can make nice straight scribe marks. I don't have to worry about dropping it. But otherwise, I can just hold it and scribe this way. So this is a very unique and useful tool as well. That might be something you want to consider. There's all kinds of things like that you can use, and I will post some pictures while I'm talking to you about this of other things that you can use that are unconventional, but very conventional in other ways. A lot of people take something that is for a certain application and think it can only be used for that application. But there's more ways to use things. You have to think outside the box. You have to be imaginative. You could be wearing a piece of jewelry that you could use. I mean, anything. There's all number. Your keys, obviously, that's an old one. I don't like to use keys because if the key ring breaks and your keys are all over, would it work in a pinch? Sure. Is it worth your life losing your keys? Yeah, it is. I mean, your life is more important than your keys. So if you lose some keys, well, then you either change locks, replace them, whatever. But your life is most important. Your phone, a credit card, there's all kinds of things that can be used. The point is that when you have a threat facing you, you want to neutralize the threat immediately and get out of there. And I have a system that I called that is it. And if you've been in the military, you're going to know the acronym SERE, SERE. And no, it doesn't stand for what they do in the military. Mine is survey, evaluate, respond, and escape. And I'm going to do a separate video about that, talking all about SERE and the ways that you should be prepared when you're out anywhere and using SERE on an everyday basis to make sure that you stay out of a bad situation no matter where you are. You could be in a bad neighborhood. You could be at work. You could be anywhere. You might have a coworker that, decides to attack you, or whatever the case is. SEER is a way to make sure that you stay alert so that you can stay out of those kind of situations and not have problems with someone that wants to confront you and hurt you, rob you, harm you, rape you, whatever. So it's not very long. I wanted to bring this up because I see so many posts on videos when guys are showing combatives and they're showing how to protect yourself. And these people, oh, well, let's see you use that in the octagon. Let's see you use that against a boxer. Let's see you use that against an MMA guy. You're not going to run into an MMA fighter or a boxer unless they've turned to drugs and alcohol on the street who wants to attack you. You're just not going to do it. And if they're stoned or drunk, most likely they're not going to be very effective anyways. Because as we know, when you drink and when you do drugs, it lowers your response time. It lowers your ability to be fully cognitive of what you're doing. So if you see any self-protection videos, what people call self-defense, I hate that term because if you're on the defensive, you've already lost. You should never be on the defense. You should always be proactive in your self-protection. So quit listening to people that say, well, that would never work against. They don't know what they're talking about. I've been studying martial arts and combatives since I was 5 years old. Over 50 years I've been involved in them. I've used them. I've worked in professions where I've had to use my combatives training to neutralize threats. And one point that I want to tell you and make you think about is the fact of, you look at people like the Secret Service and presidential detail. Those guys do not have time when there's an attack to wrestle some guy on the ground and get him in a rear naked choke or an arm bar. Or they have to neutralize the threat and get the hell out of Dodge. They have to protect the package, the asset. And that's exactly what I did when I did professional bodyguarding, is I had to protect the asset. They hired me to protect them, not roll around on the ground with a guy trying to put him in a rear naked chokehold to try to put him to sleep and then get up and be like, oh yeah, I did a Conor McGregor move, I'm good. It's just bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit. And people that tell you that MMA and BJJ are the best ways to protect yourself are full of shit. You don't want to be on the ground. The second reason you don't want to be on the ground is if you're by yourself and someone attacks you and you're on the ground and you get the guy into a submission, he could have friends. You don't know how many people are there. There could be guys laying in wait just watching to see what happens. He gets taken down. They're going to come out and jump on you. And what are you going to do? You won't have time to get up. You're going to get kicked. You probably will be killed, maimed, severely injured. Whatever happens, it's not going to be good for you. So you want to stay on your feet. You don't want to be on the ground. You don't want to lay there holding some dude in a rear naked chokehold. Number one, most thugs, I don't want them touching me. That's disgusting. I don't know where they've been. I don't know what they're doing, where they live. They might live in squalor if they're drug addicts. No, I don't want them touching my body. I don't want to catch something from any of them. I want to neutralize them and get away quickly. Now, here's the point you have to remember. From the center of your head in a 5-foot radius is your personal safety zone. If someone infiltrates that 5-foot radius, you have a right to neutralize them because they've gotten into your personal space. And especially if they touch you, if they poke you, that's simple assault. Someone poking you, someone grabbing you, that's simple assault. And it happens a lot. I tell people, you have 5 seconds and 3 of them are up to back out of my personal space. And when they don't back out of my personal space, I neutralize them. I've done it before and I've had no problems because they got too close. They got in my face and I warned them to back up. And I've had police show up to these encounters and they said, yep, you were warned. You got up in his face. He warned you to back off. You didn't back off. You got what you deserved. So I've never had an issue where someone got in my personal space and when I neutralized them, that I got in trouble for it. Just hasn't happened. Now, that's not to say the world has changed. I haven't been in a confrontation in a long time. But the fact is, I don't care if my precious gift of life, is more important to me than some thug that's trying to hurt me or rob me, take what's mine. It's that simple, especially if I have someone with me or people with me that I'm protecting. That's not going to happen. they're going to find themselves on the ground hard, fast, and in a hurry, and we're getting the hell out of Dodge. Now, if I can avoid having to neutralize them, if I can just get away from them, that's great. But it's not very likely, because 9 times out of 10, they're either going to run after you, or they're going to shoot you if they have a gun, or lunge at you and thrust at you with a knife if you try to turn and run. So you have to neutralize the threat. And I'll get into neutralizing the threat situation in part 2, things that you can consider on ways to neutralize threats. And it doesn't matter how big, how muscular, how small, how lanky. These will work on anybody. I've used them. I've trained with every guy from 7 foot tall, 400 pounds, down to guys that were 5'4" and 150 pounds. So I know they work. I've used them. I've trained them in using these techniques. They're very quick and very efficient. Doesn't take years to learn. You don't have to be a black belt. Belts are to hold your pants up, just like Bruce Lee said. That's what they're for. I don't care about belts. What I care about is things that will make you stay alive when a threat comes to your door. It's that simple. So stay tuned for part 2 on the combatives. We'll talk to you soon.